Hey everybody on Torch Talk. I'm streaming live directly to Torch Talk this afternoon or this early evening. I've been thinking about doing a video for those newcomers to our industry. I joined Torch Talk a few months ago, and I've been seeing a lot of people posting some of the pictures of the stuff they're making, new glass blowers, and I figured, it might be a decent opportunity for me to give back to our community here. One of my friends posted a link. He's taking care of another friend's estate, and he just posted this really inspirational post about what he was trying to do last night, and I was just thinking about different ways in which I can give back. And one of the ways I'd like to try to give back is to continue doing these videos. I've done a series of videos just kind of for the general friends on Facebook, and I've captured them and put them onto my YouTube page. This tutorial shouldn't take too terribly long, and I was really wanting to do this again for people that are newer into blowing glass. Maybe you're just picking it up as a hobby. I feel like there's maybe quite a few people that have picked it up that don't really have a teacher. And I know I can count my blessings. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I've had a lot of teachers around me for a long time. Even before I ever decided to be a glass blower, I knew quite a few glass blowers, and that was one of the ways I got into it. So, that all being said, I think it's a really good opportunity to use this Facebook Live thing to maybe try to help somebody with developing their products. And spoon pipes are one of those things that will put food on your table, or it has put food on my table, will buy you a nicer torch. And it's one of the ways that I learned how to blow glass is by sitting here and cranking out spoon after spoon after spoon after spoon. So really valuable thing to know how to do, and know how to do it well, execute it well. And I pulled out a few examples of some spoon pipes from way back when I first started blowing glass, way back, which was like, 3.5 years ago now or something like that. So I just wanted to kind of show a progression. This is one of the very early capped glass spoons, and it's wonky, like this mouthpiece is way too long, and the bowl push is like, it really should be pushed like this, not up to the front. But now this one is pushed, and it's just, so, these are some relics that I just kind of pulled out, and, I don't sell them. They've been sitting around in my basement for a long time. So, yeah, so these are old, early examples of wonkiness that I made. But you know what? I went ahead and just kept on and kept on. So that's 3.5 years ago. Here's one that came back to me from one of my distributors, and this might have been in 1.5 years of blowing glass. It's a pink and white wrap rake made on 25 mil tubing, which is what I'll be doing this tutorial, making 25 mil tube spoon pipe. And this one's okay. The shaping is a lot better, I think. And then we kind of go to the progression. Here's a pretty simple spoon pipe that I made just the other day. And now you notice one of the things about a spoon pipe is there's really 3 distinct parts of it. There is the bowl, there's the stem, and there's the mouthpiece, right? And one of the ideas, the goal is to have everything in a proportion of each other. So we don't want our bowl too big and our neck so skinny and our mouthpiece all wonky. So, I feel like, when I make a pipe, I want it to be in proportion, and this is, to my eye, what the proportion should be. And this one just has a very basic honeycomb on it. It's just cobalt blue tubing with silver fume, made on 35 millimeter Chinese cobalt tubing, left-hand carb, flat spot, pretty darn simple. The bolt, but notice the difference between this pipe and this pipe, right? Well, how about this one? You see where the bowl's pushed, and you see where the bowl's pushed. So when you're sitting there holding this thing, you're able to look down in it, right? That's a good idea, right? Having something that you can look and see what the hell you're doing instead of having something like this, right? So there's a very specific, easy thing to do. And so if you don't have a teacher, if you've never had somebody to show you, okay, this is how you can make that nice, like almost 45 into there to where you can see in the bowl, right? That's what I'm trying to do. So there's some folks comment, I still make some wonkers. I mean, we all still make some wonkers every so often. So like this is one I did, a couple days ago. This is one I did when I first started. Here's, kind of a heady spoon that I made for another video that I did entitled Making a Honeycomb Spoon. So if you guys are interested in looking at that, that's on the YouTube channel. And yeah, we all make wonkers, and nobody starts blowing glass and is an expert at it all at once. But there are some definite tips and tricks that I've learned that people have showed me. So kind of going through what I'm going to be using tool-wise. I've got some claw grabbers. I've got a graphite reamer. Very basic tools. I've got a bowl push, graphite bowl push, some tweezers. Real simple stuff here. I'll also be using a couple pieces of, 12-5 blow tube. And today I'm going to make just a clear spoon, 25 mil. We might put some silver fuming on this, but one of the things that I think I did at first is I tried to I'm going to add all this decoration and everything, and I've made 3 spoons in my life. And if you're new to blowing glass and you haven't done much, you can do yourself a big favor by keeping it really simple at first. I found that when I started making clear spoons, and I made 200 clear spoons, and the 150th started looking like something I wanted it to, then I was able to go back and say, well, let me add some stripes, or let me do a wrap rake pattern. So these things, this is the way that we learn, or this is the way that I've learned. I start with clear glass because clear glass is cheap. If you're making a spoon pipe, you could use the Chinesium stuff. It's really not that expensive. So, if you wanted to teach yourself how to make a spoon pipe, you can watch some videos. But sit there and, buy a case of Chinesium frickin' 25 by 4 tubing and mess up half that case, and then you'll get it, It's all about practice. So I work on a GTT Mirage. This is my torch that I work on. I have an L Marver. And what I'm going to do today is I'm not going to use my outer flame. The other thing that I think we as teachers sometimes don't really think about is somebody might be working on a little small Bethlehem Alpha, or something kind of small, and it is completely possible to make a decent size pipe on that. So I'm not going to use my outer fire at all. And as a matter of fact, my first torch was a Phantom, and I was scared of the outer fire. So I made, for about a year, I never hardly used my outer fire and just made my spoons with just that inner fire. So it can be done. One thing, if you have a small torch, you can crank up on your oxygen and propane. I know Bethlehem likes to say, oh, you need to, you can run this torch at 2 psi propane and 10 psi oxygen. Well, that's great if you're a soft glass bead lady, and God bless. But if you're messing around with boro and you're trying to actually make something that's a decent size, crank that pressure up and you'll do yourself a favor. And you don't have to go crazy with it. One of my teachers runs his oxygen at 90 psi, and his propane gauge is broken, so he's like, I just crank it all the way up and let it go. And I was always wondering, why is your torch so ragey every time I come over there? So anyways, yeah. So it's just one of them things. There again, very, very basic stuff that we're going to be looking at here. So again, if you had a Lynx, I'm going to show you with just this center fire how to do it. I run my oxygen and propane at, oxygen at around 35 to 45 psi, and my propane around 10 to 15. But you know, I can make this flame super ragey if I want to. Also, I'm going to wire up the shop and have like lens filters and everything. I was really wanting to save this video for when I had a lens filter so people could actually see it, and maybe I'll redo it at some point. Okay. Anyways, I talked a shitload. Sorry, guys. But here's my blank. Here's my started from my point. And the way I was shown is I'm going to take my hand, you know, be careful, this, you know, can be hot, it's hot sometimes. I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to gauge it. So I'm going to make a mark at about, I don't know, 3.5 inches in, maybe 4 inches in. And I just use a little tungsten freaking thing to make my mark. You can use black Sharpie, but this, you can see it when it gets hot. So I'm going to make my flame a little bit brushy. It's still a little ragey. And I'm going to start a little bit further out in the flame. One of the nice things about working with clear is you can see where the condensate is. You can really start to see, you know, just when it's getting warm. Part of the learning curve for blowing glass is really learning how to read the glass. And that just takes a little bit of time, you know. What I'm doing right now is I'm heating up around, I don't know, an inch or so. So I'm going to go back and forth just a little bit and heat up back and forth just a little bit. And this tube is starting to get a little soft on me now. Going back and forth. I see where it is where I want it to be. I'm not pulling right away. Now it's starting to firm up. I'm pulling. Let me back up a little bit. Now I'm going to pull hard because it's getting firm. Okay, so I'm turning a little bit, like by a third, and I'm pulling. And notice how I paused. One of the things in that learning curve is always going to be, you know, slower is faster. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I've got my point pretty much ready. I'm going to cut it off at this hip. I'm going to put a dot on there, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to cut off it right at this hip here. Okay. So now I've cut off my point, and I'm going to take a dot from this side, and I'm going to put it right there. And this is a trick that one of my teachers showed me. It'll save you a lot of time opening up these points. So anyways, and I would have done this while it was still hot had I not been demonstrating. So I just put a little dot of glass there. Let me puff that out just a little bit. So that's a prepped up point, right? I'm going to throw this in the kiln real quick. Okay. Now I've got this little dot of glass that I put on the end of this thing. Now here's a trick. This will save you a lot of time trying to snip it and everything like that. Forget that. So I got this dot of glass where we are manipulating, we're using the properties of the glass to our advantage. This is a stress point. I've got my knife. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run my knife like a freaking runway. And when I hit it, it's going to pop off that end. Watch. You probably can't see. Maybe you can. Here. Oh, there it goes. See there? Now it's nice open end. I'm just going to flame polish that. There you go. Now your point's back open. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that point one more time, and we'll go into the shaping and actually making of this simple spoon pipe. So I think what I might do is I'll do it twice. You know, this video shouldn't be that long. It might be 20 or 30 minutes by the end of it. And if you're watching now but you got to run, I'll go ahead and archive it on my YouTube channel as well. You know, and I don't claim to be an expert in glass. I am a baby. And also, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. You know, there's a lot of different ways to make a spoon pipe. So there again, I got it where I want it warm-wise. I'm not pulling hard. And I'm not pulling hard hardly at all. Now I'm pulling harder. Okay? Now, notice how long that point is. I want my point to be pretty long. One of the ways that I messed up a lot of glass at first was I made my points too thin. You know, some people don't like points. Points are fine if you know how to make them correct. You know, if you make your points thick enough, then they'll be all right. The other thing is keeping everything on center, and that just has everything to do with muscle memory and practice over and over and over again. Again, get you a case of 25x4 Chinesium and frickin' pull points off of it until you are pulling points in your sleep. That would be a big tip I could give a newbie to glass. Okay, so now I've got about a 3.5-inch blank, right? And the handle on this is probably like 16 to 18 inches. It's pretty long. Okay, so let me walk through the steps a little bit. This is how I make. Some people like making their spoon pipes right off of the end, so this side will become the mouthpiece, and this side will become the bowl, and the kind of the middle will become, you know, so they would heat up, you know, this section here, pull their neck, turn this into a. I don't like doing that. I do it the other way around. So I'm gonna pull my neck and make my mouthpiece. Then I'm going to attach a blow tube and use this end as the bowl piece. And there's a couple of reasons I like doing that. One is it gives me an opportunity, like a second chance, to make sure that if I was off center, I'm going to have another chance to center this thing back up, right? So I'm actually doing myself a favor in that way. And the other thing that I like about it, doing it the way I just described, is I feel like I have more control over how the mouthpiece is going to turn out. And like, yeah, you know, you can, you know, really become a master at making a pipe right off of a point. I just like the way I do it, you know, and this one of the ways I learned all kinds of ways, but this is one of the ways I learned and the way that I've stuck with. So the idea is I'm going to heat up, if we broke this tube into thirds or like quarters, let's say quarters. So I'm going to go 1/4 in, that'll be my mouthpiece. I'm going to go 2/4 in, that's going to be my neck. And the last, well, maybe thirds. So 1/3 in will be my bowl, and then like this third will be my neck, and then this third will be my mouthpiece. And I'll try to stop at every step. Since this is cold, I'm going to do what's called just a little flame annealing. So I turn my oxygen way down, and I'm turning up my propane. There again, you know, since this particular demonstration is really geared to a new person, I'm really going to try to go into as much depth as I can about making this particular piece. I'm going to punny up to the end, okay? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to punny up to the end. I've got some like 8mm clear punny rod. I'm not worried about this end right this second. I'm going to pull my mouthpiece first, or excuse me, pull my neck first, and then I'll go ahead and clean up that end and make my mouthpiece. Punny up. When I punny up, I try to center it as best as I can, and then I turn it in thirds, and while my punny is still a little warm, I will tug on it a little bit. Tug, 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 just a touch. And in that way, I'm able to center up my punny. Okay, so I said I'm not going to use my big flame for this demonstration. So this might take me a couple extra minutes. Remember what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say 1/3 in to 2/3 in. So that second third of this blank needs to get warm. And, you know, it's just going to take a second to do it like this. But there again, you know, you might be somebody that's brand new, and you know, you went out and you bought that kit or whatever that's like $250 that comes with a alpha and you know, like that's totally, you know, that's where a lot of us start. And So I'm heating this second third up, and I'm actually condensing it just a touch. It's been a while since I made a spoon like this, but it's, you know, it's warm. I'm not being shy with my heat here. Okay. Now, it's pretty soupy, but I'm just gonna sit here and just, I'm just letting it stabilize, and I'm just slightly, easy, pull, just touch. Just the feathering of pulling. So, let me let this thing stabilize, and I'll show you guys where we're at. So that's about where we're at. And so in that process as well, I am paying more attention to this area here than I am to this area here, because I'm going to be messing with this. Remember what I said about giving myself the opportunity, if something goes a little wonk, doing it this way, I give myself a little extra opportunity. So, yeah, I see everybody's commenting. I can't hardly keep up with you guys commenting. I really think this Facebook Live thing is cool. All right, so I just melted that funny off. I could have cracked it off, but I went ahead and melted it. So that's where we're at. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up this mass, and I'm going to heat it and spin. I'm going to spin my rod in the opposite direction, away from the piece, and that's going to remove some of that glass. And I'm basically creating myself a little blank here. And when I do that, it's going to be warm, and it might do a little flopping, but then I'm going to give it a couple little puffs with it angled up, and it's going to create like a nice mouthpiece, like a Maria mouthpiece or whatever. So, you'll see. So I'm turning my heat down a little bit because I'm working on a smaller thing, you know. Again, a big part of learning to blow glass is all about, you know, reading the glass, flame control, you know, learning how to run your specific torch. And, you know, one of the best things that you can do is just mess around. Take your time, you know, do the best that you can, and just sit there, because it's going to take 1,001 before you get one that's good. You just can't skip that part of the process, is in my experience. So I'm heating this thing up. And see, it gives me an opportunity to get it all on center, everything nice and even heat. Okay. Nice and even heat in there. Give it a little puff. Alright. So you see, there you go. Yep. You gotta learn, you gotta just do it. Okay, and this is a little bit squattier than what I want it to be. But that's okay, because now I have the opportunity to kind of feather this side out. And what I'll do is I'll heat up a little bit larger section than what I'm gonna put as a whole, and I'll puff it out a little bit, and I'll let it cool, and then I'll go to the very end. So you'll see, and what I watch for is I watch for my flame to deflect. This is clear, so I'll be able to see right through it, but if you're using a cobalt tube, say, you won't be able to see through it necessarily. So when you get into this side, you know, I'm gonna be over here on the side of my torch, popping the hole for this mouthpiece end. When I do that, I'm watching the color of my flame to turn orange, and for the flame to do one of these numbers, or let's see, one of these numbers. That's how you guys can see it. And that way, I know that I'm at the very edge, right? Because I don't want to pop a hole right here. I want to pop it right in the middle. So I'm going to turn my flame down and turn it into kind of a smaller, like needle type flame. All right. Now, as I puffed it out, I had to back up just a hair so that I would stay right on the center. So now I'm going to go back into my flame, and I'm going to have to open this hole up a little bit. So when I open that hole up, I don't start by reaming. I start by pushing out like by quarters, and then as I get it a little bit bigger, then I'll ream. So anyways, that's where we're at. Okay, now I'm gonna weld up my blow tube. And I used to try to do these as kind of a semi-cold seal. One of my teachers likes to do that. And I find that condensate will make it jump off if it's a semi-cold seal. So I tend to try to seal it fairly well. Now, when I melt this off, I'm going to melt it off past the hip and come back down on my blank. So that way I'm not risking cracking this massive glass. And that really comes into play more when you have melted in lines. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'll start melting up here, and then I'll just clean this up, and I'll create the kind of the final blank, and then I'll blow it out. Yeah, so anyways, I've been thinking about kind of doing this type of tutorial for quite a while now, and I don't feel that I'm qualified to coach people in a lot of the more advanced techniques, but I do feel well qualified to show somebody how to make a spoon pipe at this point. So anyways, that's about where we're at. Right? Again, I'm not going to use my outer flame. I'm going to use just my Lynx flame for this pipe, just in case somebody was like, well, I would be able to make that if I had that, big flame, but I can't because I have it. No, watch it. So it's going to take a little while, but not too long. Yeah, so what I think I'll do is I'll do this one, and I'll go step by step with all this talking, and the next one I do, I just won't talk, and I'll just do it, and we'll see how long it takes me. Somebody said, oh, it's 5 extra steps. It's really just 1 extra step. Okay. Ready? Okay, now we're at our basic shape. So what I like to do is I like to kind of get this head a little less round sometimes. But for our purposes, I think that's a decent shape for our spoon pipe. Maybe I'll drop it back on itself just a touch. I kind of like it to be kind of a alien head looking kind of a thing. I feel like it's just a better feel in the hand. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of halfway up this bulb, and I'm just letting it sink back on itself a touch, right? Just a touch. Okay, that's a shape that I'm more happy with, and it's just very slightly different. Okay, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my bow hole, and so one of the big mistakes that I would make usually in the beginning is I would put it, basically on the very top of that bulb, but really let me find a pointer here. Really where I want it to be, I don't want it to be on the top. I want it to be right here, if you can see that. I want it to be in, like closer to me, so that when I push my bow, I'm gonna push it at an angle this way, and that way when you're holding the thing, you'll be able to look into it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna hook, it's like a hook action. I'm gonna hook this thing around and come on the backside closer to me when I go to pop my bow hole. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. Sorry guys, I just can't keep up with the comments. I'm really glad like there's people that are interested in this. So I'm gonna use a smaller flame, and then I'm also gonna switch sides. I don't want my bow hole to slump to one side or the other, right? I want it to be pretty much dead in the middle. Then when I do that, I'm gonna puff it out. When you blow in air and you're not in the flame, it doesn't, I mean, it does open the hole a little bit. There's, you know, it takes a little bit of just frickin' doing it. Also, I'm gonna look and see which side of this thing, I mean, nothing is ever quite perfect. I'm gonna see which side of this thing, this one's pretty close to symmetrical, so it doesn't matter too much. Okay, see where I popped that hole? It's closer on this side of it. Right. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna heat up a decent swath of this thing, like really more than you would think you need, and that'll allow me to push a nice bowl in there. So I'm gonna come up in my flame, a nice brushy flame. And you know, timing, reading the glass, all that's pretty critical. And that's what comes with practice, you know. But knowing the steps also helps. So if we can put the knowledge into somebody's hand and let them mess up, you know, a case of glass, it's all to the good. All right. Alright, and there you have it. That's that bow push. And you notice how my bow pushes usually go all the way into the neck a little bit. There again, that's that angle. That's just how I like, you know, that's how I like making them. I'll do my very best to go back through the comments and answer the questions when I get done with this demonstration. So now my next step is going to be to push a flat spot, and I'm going to heat up a swath. I'm not going to push it immediately. If you push it immediately, it like convexes, it concaves on itself. So I'm going to let it, I might go and heat it up one time, do a little push, not a big one, just to get it started, and then go back, heat it up again, and do another one. All right, I'm going down to my graphite here. You know, not rushing is actually pretty crucial, especially when you first start, you know. So slower is faster a lot of the times. Okay, now I got my flat spot. And when I went to do my flat spot, I set my mouthpiece down and used that angle. Okay, now I'm gonna pop my carb pole. I usually like put them on the left side. You can put them on whatever side you want. I'm going to close this up. I'll do one of these numbers. And also, when you go to park the car hole, you can tease it out a little bit. Okay, there you go. There's your carb hole. If you want to, if it's a little bit wonk, you can go in there with a little reamer and just kind of straighten it a little bit. And there you have it. I just took 30 minutes to make a 5-minute spoon pipe, but whatever. So next, I'm gonna throw this in the kiln and we'll come back real quick and do just a fuming one real quick. And for this one, I'm not gonna talk step by step. We'll just go into it. If you haven't silver fumed before, you want a reducing flame, which means you have more propane than you do oxygen. You know, I like I said at the beginning of this video, I feel for the people that really want to get into this and don't have any teachers around them. If you're just thinking about getting into glass blowing or just started, go find somebody to take some lessons from. You know, ask them, can I pull points for you for free? You know, that'll help you tremendously. When I first started, some of my first teachers, they'd been friends for a long time. They were like, yeah, come over, pull points. Just pull points all day. Points. 6 hours a day, just points. And okay, so now I've got this thing fumed up. I'm just gonna go ahead and make this one. If I quit talking, this pipe will probably take me 7.5 minutes is my average on something this simple. Doing it this way, you know, so anyways. I'm cheating, I'm using my outer fire. Yeah, I think it's 7.5 minutes with pulling the point. I think it's 5 minutes without, if I have my points prepped up. Yeah, and if you start with clear glass, man, it's not that expensive. Even Cymax shot, not that expensive, you know. Go and get you a bunch of clear glass and just mess it up, you know. I think I'm gonna throw a little bit more fume on this thing. I wasn't paying attention when I turned on my outer fire and it was a little bit too reducing. I'll just throw it just a tad more. Bake that in just a little bit. Anyways, usually when you're using some fume, you probably want to encase it a little bit, you know, maybe draw some lines and stuff like that, maybe some dots, whatever. That's where we're at. Oh yeah, that shot doesn't take fume very well. I'll tell you what. Yeah, Chinese tubing takes to fume pretty well too. I don't like using it. As a matter of fact, I stopped buying Chinese clear because it really is not very quality, and the price difference isn't so much that, you know, the better stuff is unaffordable in clears. But I've had my day with that stuff. Where we're at. And there you have it. Burned most of the silver off of that thing. If I'd have been paying a little more attention, I wouldn't have, but where am I at? Yeah, so I live in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I'm at. What I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna go back through all the comments, you know, maybe later tonight or something like that, and I'll do my best to answer folks' questions. At that point, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks everybody for joining in. I hope you guys got, you know, got something out of the video, and I like bringing folks into the shop with me, either through the internet or whatever. If you want to, there's some other videos on my YouTube channel. You can go ahead and feel free to check those out. Yeah, so y'all have a really good night. It's Friday. Y'all have fun. and we'll see you next time.